Today is the final day in 4 of the Ukrainian territories where elections are being held, asking if those territories want to formally and officially become a part of the Russian Federation, or at least as formally and officially as it can be when it's not legal. And you can't actually do that. It's not legal under Ukrainian nor international law, but Russia's doing it anyway. These territories make up 15% of Ukrainian territory. To put it in context, it includes some of the regions you might be familiar with from prior conflicts, including Luhansk and Donetsk. And the Ukrainian government is saying that all of this is just to provide a fig leaf of legal authority for claiming that those are now Russian territory. And so if the Ukrainians were to liberate portions of it, Russia would declare that they're being invaded effectively. That, of course, is a ridiculous thing to claim, and so I am sure that they are right, and that is exactly what Russia's gonna do. In any event, the purported referendums are illegal under both, as I said, Ukrainian and international law. They don't remotely meet basic democratic standards for free and fair elections and have been denounced by a number of world leaders. And beyond just the fact that they're illegal, the way that they're being conducted makes it seem even worse. Take a look.
We've heard reports, though, from residents, accounts from people on the ground saying that soldiers are going door to door, forcing people to vote. Ukrainian officials are saying that in some towns, residents have been banned from leaving. Some workers have been threatened with losing their jobs if they do not join this process. So it seems that people have been forced to take part in this so-called referendum.
Okay, so it is, of course, one thing for journalists talking with people on the ground to assert that there's this pressure, the possible threat of violence, perhaps death, if you do not vote the way that Russia wants. But that is just an assertion. So why don't we take a look at some of the vote counts that have come in? So displaced people from the 4 regions were able to cast votes in Russia, by the way. So again, they don't have to actually still be living in Ukraine. So early vote counts show numbers in excess of 96% in favor of coming under Moscow's rule, which you might consider to be suspicious. I've always found that it's only super suspicious at the 98% level. That's Saddam territory, and that's when it seems like maybe some shenanigans are going on. 96%, it just might be a popular position.
All right, I hear award-winning journalists say that it's very possible that those were the results. An award-winning journalist earlier said that when Bashar al-Assad got 95% of the vote in the middle of a civil war, he said, oh, no, that's true. And he went, so I'm referring to Aaron Mate at Gray Zone, the clown who pretends to be a reporter. And he went all the way to Syria. He was like, oh yeah, 95%. The dictator got 95% in the middle of a civil war. Yep. Oh, I don't know why that 5% is in the civil war, but I guess some people are opposed to him. But yeah, I nailed it, 95%. And in this case, 96%. No, that means. See, what I'm amazed by is that the guy is relatively clever as Putin, although is he? Because he just got his ass handed to him by Ukraine, but doesn't bother saying 72-28. 96% is like, yeah, I cheated. What are you gonna do about it?
64.
Right?
Give it a 64.
Only my paid propagandist will say that this is a legitimate election. Go ahead. All you award winners out there, go ahead. I'll look, okay? So anyways, obvious fraud. But look, guys, there's 2 super important things that come out of this. Number 1, now I think we know the plan. So before, I didn't understand what's going on. Like they're withdrawing from most of Ukraine, but they're bringing in 300,000 people theoretically. It's not gonna happen, but still it's gonna be a big number of new enlistments, etc. And they're threatening nukes. I'm like, why are you threatening nukes while withdrawing? Now it's clear. They're gonna try to get 15% of Ukraine, right? And they're gonna say, oh, now it's Russia, we just voted, and it's no longer Ukraine, it's Russia. Now we can defend our territory. So if you cross our new border, then we could nuke you, okay? So does that make nukes more possible or less possible? Well, it's a mixed bag. The number 1 thing I was worried about is a tsunami where the water recedes and then a big wave crashes, right? So I was worried that they were taking the troops out to actually do a nuke because Putin's desperate, right? So it looks like they're not going to do that. So that's good news. That's my guess based on the evidence that we're seeing here. But Are they serious about drawing the line and saying the Ukrainians, if you try to recapture your own territory, will nuke you? I don't know.
My assumption, and maybe I'm naive, bear in mind, months ago I didn't think that they would invade, so take this with a grain of salt, is that it is madness to nuke someone. Putin has other things that he can do. Doing that, like, I would assume even the propagandists have to have a problem with that. Even Tucker Carlson probably needs to imply maybe he ought not have done that. That seems like a line that can't be crossed. Definitely, I think that they're gonna try to pretend that this is Russian territory. I mean, they were already basically saying that from the very beginning, pretending that this was Russian territory. So we'll see if maybe the rest of the countries around the world looking perhaps to end this conflict are willing to accept that as a solution, that they just get to steal 15% of a country. Maybe, I don't know. I imagine the Ukrainians will not be big fans of that. And there's gonna be a lot of new troops coming their way and potentially more equipment from countries like North Korea and Syria going through Russia. But I also know that those new recruits, like, they sent their best initially and it didn't go well for months. When they send these new recruits who don't want to be there, many of them are out of the age range where they're supposed to be serving. They're going to be going with very little training. It is going to be an absolute bloodbath. That would be my non-expert prediction. And so maybe this provides stability, if not true peace, and many people effectively will have been stolen from the country they would prefer to live in. It's also possible this could just lead to far more death and destruction.
Yeah, so I think that this is going to be very drawn out. I mean, look, to your point about the nukes, John, I wouldn't be, no. I think the Putin propagandists will definitely defend him nuking civilians. Tucker Carlson and the ones pretending to be on the left, they will instantly kiss Putin's ass.
That has to be a line.
No, it's not a line. There's no way. They have no morals. They have no morals at all. They
nuke Kyiv.
Yeah, no. Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
That night, Tucker Carlson's like this. He was driven to this.
He was driven to this. I guarantee you. I 100% guarantee you that the propagandists will say he was driven to this. The Ukrainians made him kill all the Ukrainians. I mean, they literally said it before.
Democrats.
And they'll say it's the Democrats. It was Biden's weakness,
maybe,
et cetera. And they goaded poor Putin. Putin didn't want to nuke and kill all your grandmothers and babies, but they had to do. But that's not the issue.
Maybe.
But John, overall, don't worry about that. I mean, those are ghouls and goblins, right? But the real issue is, how's the rest of the world going to react? How's China and India going to react? And so there we have more good news, and we'll end it on that. China and India lately have sent messages publicly saying, like, let's wrap this up. And I think that's why Putin is part of the reason why he's withdrawing. The economic handwriting's on the wall. And China and India were supportive earlier, but since he took so long and he was losing, they got impatient with him and sent clear public messages. And Putin himself, when talking to Xi, who's the head of China, was actually deferential. I've never seen that from Putin. And said, while we understand that there is valid criticism, something along those lines. And I was like, whoa, he's scared of the Chinese. He's hurt, dog. Don't ask him if he's okay, right? So this is him backpedaling. That leans towards he will not use a nuke because China and Russia and India will not look kindly on that. And then he'll have lost all of his allies. And so that's losing too much leverage. I don't think he's that dumb.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and he's also obviously facing a lot of pressure. I mean, even state TV in Russia has been saying in the wake of them retreating their way across Ukraine that he needs to be stronger. That's why they did the mobilization, but that's not working out for him. People seem to clearly hate that because many of the things he said, limitations on the mobilization, were obvious lies. They didn't bear out. And so maybe that provides a little bit of a fig leaf of we're being strong. We're gonna have, don't worry about the fact that we lost tens of thousands of soldiers. We'll have more. And I just got you a big chunk of new territory. Maybe that's the consolation prize that disarms a bit of the domestic opposition or pressure that he's facing. Maybe.
By the way, super last thing on it. Tons of high-powered people in Russia are being killed as we speak. At least 10 have died in the last couple of months, including a number of energy executives. Okay, there was a guy who was in a hospital and got out of bed and tripped and fell out a window. Okay,
they build those hospitals on a slope and it leans towards the windows. I've been telling them to change that.
Yeah, and another guy mysteriously suffocated to death, and then they called it a suicide, because a lot of guys do that. Okay, so anyways, but that doesn't mean Putin's doing it. So
that's true.
Historically, it's been Putin's side that's doing it, but it could be other oligarchs sending Putin a message, because some of them appear to be his allies. It's totally unclear. Or, by the way, in an oligarchy, what is it? It's basically mob, like a mafia kind of rule. So it could be different warring mobs having a mob war and picking off each other's captains. So it's a mess inside Russia, and Putin is trying to clean it up right now because basically he lost. Remember how I told you I was going to look up Gray Zone's headlines to see how they're going to spin Russian propaganda? Zelensky quietly deletes photo of his bodyguard's pro-Hitler patch. Oh, so Zelensky's pro-Hitler. Seems surprising given that he's Jewish, but okay, hold on. Let's take a look at the next headline right after that. Zelensky and NATO plan to transform post-war Ukraine into a big Israel. So wait, he's a Nazi who's going to turn Ukraine into Israel? It doesn't have to make sense. It's just propaganda. Thanks for watching The Young Turks. I really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.